Hello and welcome to the Biz Alchemy podcast. Welcome to 2024. Oh, so exciting. Can you feel the excitement about this year? Like it's quite strange because on the one side, it's like we're looking around going, oh my God, look, everything's falling apart. But birthing up beneath that is this incredible newness. And there's an excitement with that because we are truly getting to harness our power as creative beings. What is it we truly wish to create from our heart? And this is the new earth that we're creating. And this is what I'm talking about here on the podcast, is how we can co-create this new earth paradigm together, especially in relation to our business. But obviously, what I talk about goes way beyond business. So this is us co-creating a new life that's in alignment with our heart energy and in alignment with the harmony between the masculine and feminine, the yin and the yang, as I often call it in relation to business. And I've done many podcast episodes on balancing the yin and yang in business. And the reason I talk about it so much is because the traditional model of business that came from the patriarchal system is a very yang-based model. And for many women in business, it does not suit them. And even those it suits, it's because they've really harnessed their yang energy to thrive in that space, but it doesn't necessarily nurture their yin or allow the harmony to exist within them between the yin and the yang. And if we are co-creating New Earth, and to do that, to move into that frequency of consciousness, we must have harmony between the yin and the yang, our sacred masculine and our sacred feminine. That is the only way to shift our consciousness into this higher frequency, is through this harmony. So it is vital that our business reflects that harmony, or else it's going to hold us back from moving into our own evolution. So what I wanted to talk about today, because it's been in my face a little bit, I've had a couple of incidents this year where I have found the harshness of the energy of the patriarchal business model really quite intolerable. You know, before I could just sort of turn a blind eye and just go, I'm just going to do my own thing and I'll just ignore that. But I've just noticed my sensitivity has increased to it, especially when it comes into my world and triggers me a little. It just feels so out of alignment for me. So I thought, what I'm going to do today is just share these couple of examples with you, and you may be able to relate to it. And part of the reason I want to share this is to allow you to be more aware of your sensitivity and what it's telling you. Why, if there's a particular thing that happens in your business or a particular connection with a client, something you see from your marketing perspective, like why you might be finding yourself a little less tolerant, shall we say, of that now. And know that it is because of your increasing frequency. So one thing that happened to me, which was fascinating because I confess it did trigger me. Initially, I received an email. It was just a couple of days into the new year. I was on holidays, but I still checked my emails. And this email was someone requesting to be on my podcast. Now, I get a lot of requests. Well, not a lot, but quite a few requests, but they always come through third parties. So, they're saying my client so-and-so, and they list all of their credentials, which puts me off straight away because I'm so not interested in credentials. It's like, give me the authenticity. Who is the person? But anyway, this is the way it's done in the patriarchal business model, isn't it? So I often get those emails and I just delete them. I don't even answer. However, there have been a couple of times where I have had personal emails. And when that's happened, I've always had a good look at the email, looked at the person to feel if they're in alignment. Because on the whole, all my guests here, except one on this podcast, have been clients of mine. So I know them and I know the way they work. I know that they are showing up authentically in their business. Anyway, this was a personal email, this one that came in early January. It had the person's name, it had their website. So I clicked through to the website and I had a look and thought, oh yeah, she has a nice energy. Her website, there's a little bit of the yang model in this website. I can see it, because it's just the way that so many websites are done. But, I thought, yeah, okay. And I had intended to reply to her. And anyway, a few days passed and I went back to have a look at her email and went back to the website and went, oh, I noticed she had a podcast. And I thought, oh, I'll listen to a couple of her podcast episodes. And I enjoyed them and thought, oh yeah, we could actually talk about this, if she came on the podcast and so on. So I had some ideas, but I still hadn't responded to her. And a couple of days after that, I received an email from someone else. And here's the thing, it was exactly the same email. And what had actually triggered me, I forgot to mention this, about this email was the first line was, your podcast looks awesome, uppercase, awesome was written in, and I'd love in uppercase, to be on it. And the first thing I must say that I noticed about that was, hang on, you don't look at a podcast. If you're just sitting here looking at my podcast, that doesn't tell you very much. I sort of need you to say you've actually listened to some of the episodes to know whether you're a fit for my podcast. So that was actually one hesitation I had. So anyway, this second email comes in, different person, signed by this other person, and it said exactly the same thing. And I just went, damn, like they're using a template. So there's no authenticity in this because they've used a template. I was really disappointed. I mean, I have to say the second one, there are a couple of words changed, a little bit added in here and there, and obviously the credentials were different. But I felt really like, that's where I was a bit triggered. I thought, I have to let them know, but I won't just yet. Anyway, a couple of days later, an email comes in again, a follow-up email. The follow-up email came from the first one, and then about a day later, it came from the second one. Exactly the same email, one line. Just checking, just following up that you saw my email with a little emoji. They both exactly the same thing. And that was it. That put me over the edge. That's where I went, this is not okay. I was so disappointed. So I emailed back the first person and said, look, my podcast is about showing up authentically in your business, and yet I've received an email from you and almost identical email from someone else. This has been disappointing because I thought we could have quite a good conversation. And so I just sent that off, and she responded very quickly and let me know that the reason for that was because she uses a third party. But what happens is that third party signs off as her. And she said, I value authenticity. And I gathered that from looking at her email. And she said, I have to do it as to save time. This is the way that I choose to do it because I don't choose to put time into sending emails to people about their podcast. I understand that as well. However, this was a perfect example of why it is so important that if you're going to have a third party involved, how aligned are they with you? How much do they understand you? Is authenticity of value to them? Like the fact that third party didn't even think about the fact they were sending exactly the same email from two different people to me. Like they didn't even bother to change the email, like to make it look quite different. The fact it started with that same sentence. It was a really interesting experience. And as I said, it triggered me because it just showed me of how much that model of business permeates us, even when we are coming from a heart-led space. And how do we weigh up? How do we find the balance there of choosing the most efficient and effective use of our time and therefore employing others to do some of the work for us, but also maintaining integrity within that, particularly when our name is on the email. So that was a really interesting experience for me. And it's made me ponder, the use of a third party in this way and how that shifts the energy of your business. As I talk about all the time, the energy of that third party has gone into the business of both of these ladies. And it's significantly impacted it because it brings in other people. So I got involved, I got triggered by it and disappointed by it, I suppose. So my energy has also gone into their business because I had that response. So when that happened, I thought, wow, I feel like I was extra sensitive to that. I don't know that I would have been as sensitive to that in the past. So that was one thing I noticed. And a second thing that came up was a lady wanting to book a session with me, and we had some lovely to and fro emails. And my price increased on January 1st. And so she was looking at purchasing at the new price. And she just asked a simple question: why is your session 45 minutes? And my first response was, well, just that's the length of my session. But then I realized after a moment that she was asking why she was paying the price for a 45-minute session. In her mind, she would pay that money for a longer session. I mean, that didn't trigger me at all. I completely understood what she was asking. And I really was grateful to her. And I responded and went, oh, that would be great to talk about in my podcast episode, because it comes back to the patriarchal way of thinking that time is money. I'm sure that you encounter that a lot in your business. And I'm sure when you are pricing your offers that you take into consideration time. I know I certainly do. Even when it comes to calculating what I will charge for my fee on the retreats, I look at and add it in a time, sort of through the lens of time. And I was so grateful for this interaction with this client, because it really made me tune in and say, wow, is that how I want to be pricing based on time? And this is a beautiful thing that is reflected in the playground, my membership, because we have the chalice of alchemy, where everyone, or not everyone, but whoever chooses to participate, puts in something that they would like to offer. So it might be a session, it might be a product, it might be some sort of service, and they put it in there. They put in how long it's for, but they don't put a value. They just put, if anyone would like this. And then someone else who's offered something can claim that. And then another person can claim that person's. And so it's not a direct exchange. It's like this beautiful chalice, and we can pick whatever we like as long as we've got a credit because we've put something in. But no one knows the cost of the session. This is completely about, I feel lit up when I look at that session. That's what I really want. And that's the exchange. So when this client sort of encouraged me to look at this and consider this, I realized how we are moving into this new earth through things such as the chalice of alchemy in the playground. This is a part of the new earth. And I've even been doing this with the ladies who have joined. I've got a 1-year sort of initiation journey into the lineage of the rose called the Temple of the Rose. And the ladies who have joined that, I have created all sorts of different exchanges within that. It's mostly a monetary exchange, but what I have done is I have allowed the client to choose the way they want to repay me, how many payments, over how long. And if they want to include a session or an exchange of some sort that's non-monetary, we include that as well. I mean, it takes more work for sure. It takes a little bit more effort, but everyone comes out feeling empowered by it. So there are ways we can play around with this. And I did talk about this in episode 122, Abundance in a New Earth Business. So I was very grateful to the client who ended up booking the session with me, and I'm really looking forward to sharing the experience with her. But I was so grateful that she just highlighted that time is money factor, which also comes from the patriarchal business model. So they were two incidents that really stood out for me this year and helped me tune in a little bit more to my sensitivity around the patriarchal business model. So I'm just intrigued to know about you and your sensitivity. And if you're listening to this in one of the places where you can actually comment, please leave a comment, because I think that we're going to become more and more sensitive to this. And we're going to know it like straight away. We're going to feel it within ourselves, and we're going to go, whoa, that's definitely from the patriarchal model. I cannot take that energy on. That's nope, boundaries up. Let me keep my space here pure and honor that. And that's what I did with the ladies that had sent the email through the third party. I could have just deleted that, but I really felt it was important for me to say something because they're obviously heart-led business owners. and yet they're still entwined in that patriarchal model. And it was important for me to put that boundary up. And maybe they were able to see things through a new lens, particularly when it comes to employing a third party. So speaking that, to be able to say, no, this isn't okay for me, is beneficial to you and your energy and your boundaries and maintaining your empowerment, but may also be beneficial to the one who is receiving that and bringing something into their awareness that otherwise they may not have got. And yet they might have found their energy dropping and just denser because of the interaction they were having with that particular third party. Anyway, just some musing from my perspective, sharing some examples from my life and business. This journey is ongoing. It is exciting, as I mentioned at the beginning, but it is also an experiment. And ultimately, it comes back to know thyself, as the Oracle of Delphi says. I'm going there this year. I am so excited. But it comes back to knowing thyself and really being empowered in that place of truth within your heart, because that's what will lead you into New Earth. That's what will draw in other like-minded people, like-hearted people to co-create this new earth with you in your life and in your business. And I am so excited to be co-creating this with you in 2024. Thanks for joining me. So much love.